First of all, let me say good afternoon to members of the media. The BIU has called this press conference because I'm more than sure you heard by now the letter that was issued to the Premier of the country last week, Thursday. And just to be clear, even though the Premier received the letter on Thursday, the Premier knew about the letter on Wednesday. The Premier and I were speaking about the bus issue. And he asked me, do we need to discuss anything further? I sent him back a message that I'd like to talk to you urgently, and I need to speak to you in person. So he asked me, could I come down to his office on Wednesday morning at about 10:25, which I did. And at that point in time, I had told the Premier that the General Counsel had made a decision, and you'll be getting a letter tomorrow that's going to let you know that the General Counsel of the BIU is giving the government, I think it says 11 days to make some sort of amendments to Section 57 of the Act. Failing that, on the 30th and 31st of August, we are asking, the Council is asking for all BIU members to shut things down for 2 days. I told them that letter was coming. We were going to be reaching out to sister unions to see if they were willing to support the BIU on some of this initiative, and also to members of the general public. So the Premier acknowledged the fact that I told him the letter was coming, and then on the next day, the 19th of August, on Thursday, the Premier got the letter by email, and I sent it to himself, and I copied in 3 other persons. Copied in of course, the Labor Minister. Also copied in the Party Whip, the Honorable Scott Simmons, and also copied in the chairman of the party, the PLP party. That was on Thursday. Now, much to my surprise, we got a letter, not surprising that the Premier answered, but we got an answer from the Premier on August 20th, which was Friday, which was, to be understandable. The Premier responded to the BIU's letter. I guess what comes out as a surprise was Saturday. I was at the BIU gas station buying some gas, and I'm looking at the front page of the World Gazette. BIU threatens general strike. I'm shocked and amazed that how does the BIU's letter, or reference to the BIU letter, get now in the workers' voice and out there in the media? The World Gazette. Well, it was in the World Gazette. Certainly, if the World Gazette got it, I'm not sure who else got it, but the mere fact it was in the World Gazette tells me that other media also may have the letter. So it's interesting because I just called out the 3 names other than the Premier who got the letter from the BIU. I am the one that sent the email out to the Premier. I sent it to no one else other than the Premier and the other 3 persons. So how does the World Gazette get hold by the letter? Who gave it to him? That should be the $64,000 question. If the BIU gave the Premier a letter on the Thursday, the 19th of August, how does it end up in the press on Saturday? How? Interesting, because the World Gazette clearly talks about a general strike. I think the letter to the Premier clearly states that the General Counsel motion that was made that there will be a 2-day shutdown on August 30th and 31st. It means after that, everybody's probably going back to work. So if you got a general strike, why are we getting back to work after 2 days? That's very misleading. Maybe the World Gazette done that intentionally because it doesn't say a general strike in this document. It clearly states a 2-day shutdown for 2 days because we've got concerns about the act. Now, just, I guess, so that we are clear as to what we're speaking about, the BIU had some 20 meetings, and it might be over 20 meetings, with our members to update them on Section 57 of the Act. We had about at least 12 or so meetings done at the hospital because we've got so many members down, and because of the protocols, we can only have so many people in the room at a time. And then all the other divisions, we had to meet with them separately to let them know what Section 57 means to the organization in the context that is written. So we've done all those protocols, and the council had met and says, now we need to make a decision about the way forward. And that was the decision on the way forward. So consequently, it's kind of interesting when we read the statement that was issued last night by the Deputy Premier. The government of Bermuda would like to make its position clear. The call for a general strike is most unfortunate and unnecessary. The government stands firm in its position that the Trade Union and Labor Relations Consolidated Act 2021 is fair and just. The government has no intentions of amending the legislation. Even his calling of the general strike. If the Premier gave him a copy of the letter from the BIU, nowhere does it mention the word general strike. Doesn't say that. But I guess the Deputy Premier is picking up what he saw or what he read in the Word Gazette. Let me just, I think, for lack of a better description, just explain once again how the country, Bermuda, finds itself in this current position. I've constantly said nothing starts from nowhere. Everything starts from somewhere. The Minister of Labor, this issue belongs directly at the feet of the Minister of Labor. Let me just say that again. This issue belongs right squarely at the feet of the Minister of Labor. When he promised the two largest unions in this country that I'll get back to you before this final bill goes to the House of Assembly, and he failed to get back to us. That's why, just a reminder, that's why we had the urgent press conference on December the 10th. The day before the bill ended up in the House of Assembly on December 11th, the BIU and the BPSU had an urgent press conference. Why? Because the Minister of Labor failed to get back to the two largest unions in the island on this whole section 57, which talks about the cancellation of certification of a union. That is very significant. And for whatever reason, everybody seems like they're overlooking that. I've said it, I'll continue to say it. The Minister of Labor owes the country and the unions an apology for what he did. And if he's not prepared to apologize, people talking about Chris Furbert's doing this, Chris Furbert's doing the other. Let's just look at what has happened since this bill was put on the House Assembly floor. If the minister felt he had done everything he needed to do, why would he need to have an urgent meeting with the BPSU and the BIU on December 11th at 12:30? Because he called us to an urgent meeting. If he had done everything he needed to do, he shouldn't have been worried about what the union had to say. He could have just went ahead and let the bill, take the criticism he needed to take from the MPs that was going to be, I guess, challenging him on the bill because they knew that the minister had promised to get back to unions and he hadn't gotten back to him. That's the information that we gave to him. So based on that, that's what's going to be said. So let me just do one or two other things and I'll entertain any questions that you might have. I'm not sure if you have been given it, and maybe if you haven't, then you probably need to get a copy of the letter that the Premier sent back to me as the president of the BIU. But clearly, the government's position on this is that no government since 1998, and this bill was passed in 1998, has seen fit to make any amendments to this act. Because for whatever reason, this is going to violate someone's constitutional rights, and based on that, no government has touched it. Go and read the Constitution, number 10, and you nowhere will you find that this is infringement upon somebody's constitutional rights, because the BIU is saying that a non-union member should not be able to have a vote in a ballot for decertification. You're not going to find that in the Constitution. But the government, have you believe, they got a legal position. They haven't shared us a legal position. They've told us they got a legal position. So maybe the answer should be, where's the legal opinion? So we can look at what the legal opinion is saying about why you can do what the union is saying you could be doing, because this is, from my point of view, it's a pretty simple matter. Simple in the respect that the chances that the unions are asking for are not that significant in respect that we looked at the consolidation of all the acts. The BIU could have said, or one of the BPSU, or one of the other unions said, look, I think we need to amend the 1975 Act, since that took away a lot of the rights of our members that work in hospitals or docks or telco or belco. That eliminates some of our rights. We want to repeal some of that. We never ever asked for that. We didn't. So the only time was for us to tidy up the 1998 Act, and this is what I said to our members, was in 2015, and when we started looking at all the consolidation of all the acts. Yes, we've been doing this for about 5 to 6 years now, consolidating all the acts. So it shouldn't come as no surprise that in 2021, because the government minister dropped the ball as far as getting back to unions, that we got this problem in front of us now. I will entertain any questions that you might have, but certainly it's very, I guess, concerning to us that maybe senior members of the party, maybe businesses are not concerned about this current impasse that we see the government and the BIU find ourselves in right now. I said it in the press conference last week. If everything is supposed to be so fine with the BIU and the government, and we had the bus dispute, and the members of the bus division ratified the agreement that we got from the minister, the Honorable Lawrence Scott. It was ratified. Because for whatever reason between the BPSU supervisor and the management team, they felt that the supervisors had some challenges with that agreement. So that agreement was trying to be taken off the table. And based on that, the minister referred the matter to arbitration. Section 70 of the Current Act clearly states that the minister should try to reach a settlement between the parties before the matter is referred to arbitration. The BIU received not one phone call from the minister to clarify anything about our position on that dispute. To date, last week Thursday afternoon at about 10 to 4, we called the Premier of the country to let him know the President of the BIU in front of 5 witnesses left 2 messages for the Minister of Labor, 2 separate cell phones. To date, we'll have one word from the Minister of Labor on that bus situation, not one comment. And yet this is the BIU? Questions? Sure.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Have you had much steer on support on this shutdown from the other unions yet? Can you give us any idea?
Well, certainly I understand the challenge is going to be, whilst we understand that those unions gave the BIU support on Section 57. And I think when we had the press conference here, and I had Brother Dwight Jackson with me, maybe about 6 weeks ago, he said he had spoken to the unions, and the unions were standing behind the BIU on this one issue. No, we hadn't asked them to shut down, or we're asking for support. No, they might decide to do something else in support of our protest on next week, Monday and Tuesday. If they can sit down with us, we understand. But whatever assistance they can give us in this matter for next week, Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday, it will be much appreciated.
Okay, and you've probably seen the Royal Gazette today, there are some concerns about just the fragility of the economy at the moment in terms of how we're recovering from the pandemic. Is this something that the BIU is taken into consideration when threatening this shutdown?
Well, understanding that anything that's essential that needs to be done will be done. That's the law. So we're not trying to break the law here. Understanding that we are in the middle of a pandemic, and we're going to continue to do what we need to take care of the people of Bermuda. But we're also going to understand that the government has gone down a path. At one point in time, should we challenge them on Section 57? Wait till next year? This issue is fresh. If we leave it for too long, then people say, well, Mr. Furbert, it's been a year now. You just come to the government now to resolve this. We've been at this now with the government since last year, December. We're now at August. The chances that, and we've said it, the chances the BIU is asking for are not that significant. So what is the main issue with just that? You can't just hide behind, oh, well, we've got a legal opinion and we'll be breaking the law. Show us the legal opinion how you say this. If you change it, it's going to cost you to be able to be in the follow the law, and somebody's going to challenge what you've done.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
So,
Sir.
yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Lewis.
Good afternoon.
So it seems like the government is unwilling to work with the union on this issue at this time. So if there is no agreement after the 2-day industrial action next week, where do you think this issue will actually be?
Well, certainly, I think that we have to be guarded by what happens between now and then. The executive board just made a decision this morning, because we meet every Monday morning, but it was always our intention to meet with the general counsel before next week, Monday and Tuesday, to have a conversation there about what is next week, Monday and Tuesday going to look like. We've got hospitals that are essential service, we've got security that's essential service, we've got docks, not only docks are essential service, so we've got all these things to take into consideration. So we're gonna have a special general council meeting on Wednesday at noonday to have a conversation with them about, Monday and Tuesday, and also next steps after Monday and Tuesday if something is required after next week, Monday and Tuesday. Mr. Troy,
President,
yes.
many watching will wonder what's happened between the relationship between the PLP and the BIU. There was a point in time years ago when the PLP and the BIU were very close. Last week we saw a disagreement with buses, which was resolved, and now we're at an impasse between the two sides over decertification. I'm wondering what has led to this breakdown in the relationship.
Well, I suppose that, and there are different, groups within the community that has the issues with the government on different issues, whether it's the protocols, whether it's the quarantine issue or whatever have you. Certainly, what I try to at least say to the Premier, there has to be a line of communication with the BIU and your ministers. This is the President of the BIU's opinion, that as far as communication is concerned, they lack in communication. I just gave you a perfect example. I understand that the Minister of Labor may have received this document last week, Thursday. He may have got this. So now he might be a little upset because the BIU's General Counsel recommend that if you don't make certain amendments to Section 57, we ask for you to step down. But you still got a job to do as the Minister of Labor. Until you're there for the next day or the next year or the next 5 years, you can have an issue with the BIU, but if I got a labor issue that needs to be resolved, then I tell you, I placed 2 phone calls to him. He's yet to call me back. What's that about? That's a real issue. How to put the issue on the other foot? The Minister of Labor calls the BIU president, and the BIU president ignores it. How would that go down? How would the public view that? Oh, Mr. President, what? Yeah, Mr. Furbert, you're special. The minister called you. You don't have the time to call him back? I called his boss. I called the Premier of the country and said, I've called the minister. I've left 2 messages for him about this issue. Said, Mr. President, I got it. I was expecting within about 10 or 15 minutes, half hour, my friend was going in and was going to be the minister. The minister decided he's not talking to the president of the BIU. That's a serious issue, you know.
I believe it was the Deputy Premier heard today indicated that the government would not be backing down despite
I just read that.
what you said. I'm wondering if that response alone will cause your membership to reconsider their next step.
So you're saying because the government is saying they're not backing down, that we should consider our position and not have our protest for next week, Monday and Tuesday? Is that what your question is?
It could be suggested that once the government has indicated there's going to be no movement, maybe the membership might have voted otherwise.
Well, certainly the membership can make that decision. All I can tell you is that, as I just said to you a moment ago, the BIU will meet with its general counsel on Wednesday to discuss our next steps for Monday and Tuesday. That information will be given to the general counsel on Wednesday because they would have heard the press statement released by the deputy premier, and it's up to them as to whether or not, based on what they heard, they still want to go ahead with the action that has been planned. Remember now, I just said to you we had 20 plus meetings with our membership to talk about this issue. So it's not like the general counsel made this decision in a vacuum. We constantly tell you, the BIU is an upside down triangle. It's not the president and then everybody else. It's the membership and then right down to the president. In the person that's the spokesperson for the union is the president. You've heard me come out and say many, many times after consultation with the executive board and the general counsel, this is what the decision is. No, it's all Chris Furbert wants to get rid of the premier. Chris Furbert wants to get rid of the Minister of Labor. You got so many people in our community talking about what the government's doing right now and how the Minister of Labor has changed since he was on this side. That's not coming from me. That's coming from the public. And they better wake up and pay attention. I've told the Premier this last week. You need to, your party, sir, needs to wake up and pay attention, because your laws touch with the people. You might think your laws touch with the people. Go out to talk to the average member, whether it's in government or at hospital. Get their feedback on issues right now. They're very frustrated with the government, and we've told the Premier that. So it's not like we're not telling them, we're saying primary, this is this is that now. Oh, well, December is like they're doing what they want to do, and they don't want to listen to nobody. If you look at this letter, we're talking about what happened in 1998 and what the PLP government did when they came in 1998 and what Dame Liz Barnabas didn't do when she became the AG and all that. First of all, whatever happened in 2000, this is now 2021. You got the current government. If they didn't do something, you have the chance to make it right. Any further questions? Thank you.
Just one.
Sure.
Okay. The breakdown in relationship between the government and in particular the labor minister, did it predate December 10th or was December 10th the starting point?
I think when you look at it, December was the starting point. Because up until then, we were still talking. Remember now, we met with the minister on December the 11th, the same day the bill was in the House of Assembly. We said to the minister, you know, this is the issues we have. Okay, I understand. No non-union member should be able to initiate a ballot for decertification because the way how the bill was worded, he had to go back and make an amendment to that. But that was an amendment that he made in any case. He made that, so what he did was took that out of the way. So what happens? So we agreed that in January, he'll come up with some guidelines that might get us over the hurdle of him not coming back to the unions before the bill went to the House. So the guidelines he came up with, our lawyer said they're not strong enough and they're not good enough. His point of view was that, well, too bad, I'm not making any changes to the act. So now we're going downhill. Why? Because the minister's got his view about what's going to happen and the unions have our view. There are members in the House of Assembly. I can't speak for the ABA. I can only know what some of the PLP MPs said to me. They expected one or two members to the legislation to come to the House after he met the unions in January or early February. They expected an amendment to come to the bill before the bill became law on June 1. So if they were expecting an amendment, how does the minister and the government now stay stuck where they are? Well, there's going to be no amendments to the act. Think about it. It's deep. Thank you. Sure.
One more, sorry.
Sure.
You'd mentioned at the beginning of the press conference that a general strike had been mentioned, but you said that the BIU had never mentioned a general strike.
No, we did not.
And it seemed that the basis of what you were saying is, how can just 2 days be deemed a general strike? I think it's like a length of time, but how long would you say a shutdown needs to be before it is considered to be a general strike?
1981 was a general strike. We are not proposing that we get to that magnitude in Bermuda. That was a general strike.
So
The entire country was shut down. That's what a general strike is.
So how would your shutdown differ?
How would it differ? I guess many people in the community, whether they decide to come out and protest with us during the lunch hour or whatever have you, that's completely different from a general strike of 1981. Completely different.
So you're not looking to shut down all services?
In 1981, the hospital and the government employees gave the government a 21-day strike notice to go on strike in 1981. And because the Minister of Labor failed to act, after that 21 days ran out, those two groups of workers went on strike. That should give you some indication. Hospitals, essential service. Right now, can they come out with us on Monday? They're essential service. Why not? We're asking for a 2-day shutdown for all those workers in the BIU bargaining units that can sit down for 2 days without giving that 21-day strike notice. The docks is not an essential service. Only certain items on the docks are essential. So as long as they remove all the essential items, should they be allowed to protest with us on the 2 days? I think when we protested on the Hill in 2015, the dock workers proved that. Boats came in, they took off with the essential cargo, they rejoined the group on the Hill. I don't know what you're trying to make out of this, but certainly, just because you don't have buses for 2 days or you don't have the full services or certain other areas for 2 days, is that considered a general strike? We said we're calling a 2-day shutdown. 2 days. Can't classify that as a general strike. Of course, we certainly said we're calling for the whole island to shut down for 2 days for a general strike. We haven't called the whole island to shut down. We're saying members of the public that want to come out and support us on the 30th and 31st, they can. The sister unions that can support us in whatever way they can support us. when the teachers union came out, and when we were marching on the day in question because the BPSU had some concerns about the general strike, they didn't come out to the day in question when we were marching past the union. So that is our definition of a general strike, is that the whole island would be asked to shut down because we're now calling for the whole country shut down. That's the context of a general strike. Good? Thank you.